Long ball number one here on Morning Kick Around. My name's Robert. He's Jason Davis. The Italian championship could be decided by a playoff. As Americans, do we want to see this? Napoli and Inter are tied on points and drew both of their league matchups. So in Italy, unbeknownst to me, hasn't happened in generations. But with this situation, if they are still tied at the end of the season, a playoff for the Serie A championship.
Do we want a woman with a British accent to explain this to us? Do we want that?
Yes, that would be lovely.
Okay. Let's go. Here we go.
Serie A could be decided by a dramatic playoff game. Inter Milan and Napoli are level on 71 points with 5 games to go. So if they finish the season level on points, because both their league games finished 1-1, a title-deciding playoff match would be arranged. Inter currently have a better goal difference, so they get to host the all-or-nothing game. If it's a draw at 90 minutes, there'd be no extra time and the playoff would go straight to penalties to crown the champions. In 2022, Serie A reintroduced the playoff rule, which is also used for relegation, having scrapped it in 2005. But it's only been used once to decide the title. That was in 1964, where Inter lost to Bologna. Inter won last season's Serie A and are through to the semi-finals of the Champions League and the Coppa Italia, while Napoli, who won the title in 2023, aren't involved in any other competitions.
All right.
Oh boy. So as Americans, how do we feel about an Italian league championship being decided by a playoff? So many things happening. First time since 1960 this, 1960 that. We are on the edge of history these days. Everywhere we turn.
Look, the chances are that it won't come down to a playoff. With 5 matches left, there's a chance that we won't end up with a dead tie, with a flat-footed tie at the end of the Serie A season. But I'm going to say I want this. I do want this to happen. I would love to see this. And I'm not going to stand here and argue that playoffs are better for determining champions all the time. Like, I'm not going to say, well, you know what they should do? They should just have the top 4 or 6 or 8 teams qualify for a playoff tournament at the end of the Serie A season, and that team should be the champion. I'm not doing that. I'm okay with the way we do it here because we're Americans, and we established playoffs as a means for determining champions a long time ago, many moons ago, Robert, back when they were driving buggies around. We were like, you know what's cool? Playoffs. Over there in Europe, they don't like those. They don't do that. Not really.
They do it for different things. They do. They obviously do it for that third playoff spot in the championship, or that third promotion spot rather, to go to the Premier League. We always love the promotion playoff. That's a very exciting thing, but they don't do it to define who the champion is, to determine that team. Again, what's interesting to me here is that Serie A reinstituted this playoff a couple years ago when everybody else is like, you know what, we need 6 tiebreakers so we don't have. They're trying to avoid at all costs this kind of situation. But if you make it special, if it only happens once a generation or once every, 3 or 4 generations at this point, sure, why not? Why not do it? It could be one of the greatest games on the planet this season. Yeah, no doubt. And just hurrah for soccer or football that, you know, I've been watching this my whole life. Didn't know that this was a possibility. I honestly didn't. Yeah. And we learn new things each and every single day covering this game.
Do you think it's possible, though, that the Italians do this one-off playoff to determine the Scudetto winner this season? And they're like, that was great. Let's do more playoffs.
Let's do it every year, boys. But I do got to say, though, as far as like the different versions of playoffs, I like the German approach of the relegation promotion playoff, like the second to last or third to last German team in the Bundesliga plays the second or third place Segunda division. That is now that's some nerve-wracking stuff and proves if, you know, which team better. If the second division team just like gets absolutely creamed by the first division, then, you know, meritocracy won.
Well, I do think that obviously creates an extra barrier for that lower division team to be promoted, which, you know, it's a protection for the top level team, right? And I think, you know, there are different ways to protect top level teams from going down. In Mexico, and go watch the video I did with Cesar Hernandez where we talk about the Mexican pro rail situation, which is not happening now. But when they did have it, they were doing math They were like averaging numbers over multiple tournaments and all this stuff. And they were doing that so that teams would not be sent down based on one bad season, because in Mexico, despite them not having rules around budgets, they do certainly have a level of parity with 17 games in a tournament that could upend a Chivas or a Club America or a Monterrey, and you don't want those teams going down. That would be really bad for business in Mexico. Obviously, we're also talking about what this looks like in USL coming up in a couple years, and I could imagine that it's not unlikely that we will see, hey, let's do a playoff like they do in Germany, like you talked about, Rob. Something like that. It gives one more opportunity for the top division team to stay up rather than be dropped down. And maybe there's a couple of seasons before we see anybody relegated from the USL, because what you do is you put 12 teams in your top division and you keep adding until you hit the right number, and then you say, okay, now we'll do relegation. I do think that takes some of the fun out of this for us who are looking forward to Pro Rel and USL, but I can understand it too.